For more on this, let's speak to Gareth Cuerden. He's joining us now from Cardiff in Wales. He runs a charity supporting victims of hate crime. Mr. Cuerden, good to speak to you, and thanks for joining us on TRT World. So just before we go into the full discussion, just lay out for us what you've experienced and what's been happening over the past few days since Britain voted to leave the EU.
Hi. What we have seen is there's a lot more tension within communities, certainly, and that's driven referral rates, as you can imagine, up. Obviously, we don't know the full extent to what is likely to be the case until we've completely compiled all data sets, but it's quite clear already that there's certainly a lot of fears and worries amongst certain parts of the community here in Wales.
And Gareth, has there been a spike in the work that you do? Have you seen more incidents since Thursday?
Yes, unfortunately so. I mean, we're usually dealing with around 200 referrals per month. We've seen around 60 referrals already. Although it may well be added to say that whilst we've had an increase in referrals, we have engaged with community members who said they've had quite positive messages from the community also to say that they still very much view them as part of the community, which I think has got a quite nice positive edge to the negative stories as well.
Absolutely, we must look for the silver linings in this sort of thing. But Gareth, you know, the reason that this has come about is because of the votes to leave and some of the toxic rhetoric from people like we're seeing on our screen at the moment, Mr. Farage, and those kind of posters, breaking point and that sort of thing. Do you think that the campaign in the last few weeks turned very toxic and is what's bringing about some of these crimes we're seeing now?
It could be argued that there was a misinterpretation by some voters on what perhaps they were voting for. Obviously, the problem we've got is that there are existing issues around hate crime and the offending of such within Wales and, of course, the UK. What we normally see is a catalyst, a global story adds to the fuel sometimes, and we see a peak for a short period of time before it plateaus back out, which is something similar we've seen during the Paris attacks and similarly with the Brussels attacks. So I'd say it's probably a combination of the agenda being in the media eye.
It will be, but also, do you accept that some of these people who carry out these kind of attacks, these incidents, have felt emboldened by the fact that the UK has decided to leave Europe?
I certainly think there's a big drive on nationalism. I think that perhaps there was obviously a lot of the campaigns, even shown on the screen, are saying we want Britain back. Now, what that means to certain people will obviously vary. So obviously you look at the right wing, it could mean something. You look at other organisations, they mean and think in different ways. So I would add that there's probably a fuel that's been driven by some of the extreme far right, but generally speaking, I would imagine it's just existing issues being reported more commonly now because of the media attention, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And finally then, Gareth, how do you see this going forward? Of course, we're going to be talking about the UK leaving Europe for a long time to come. Do you see these crimes carrying on, or is there something that can be done to bring back a bit of community cohesion?
Okay, I do think that they'll stay relatively high for a short period of time before they start to plateau back out. Obviously, the uncertainty of it being 2 years is something that we're not really accounted for. With attacks that we've had in the past, they've generally taken place over a few days, and then we've seen a sudden spike and then an easy plateau. But with this lasting potentially 2 years, ongoing concerns within the community, I think there are a number of challenges left ahead. I mean, I'm quite assured that the voters that are affected, the victims that are coming forward, do feel confident to come forward, and I think that they should remain to do so. I think that the Prime Minister and the rest of the governments within the UK are doing the right thing, and they're condemning that type of behaviour. I think that needs to continue, and I think that we just need to re-emphasise to victims that it shouldn't be tolerated. They do have powers to the hand to uplift sentences by hate crime offenders, and that there is support available for them. So I think that the message from us and other organisations, certainly within Wales and the UK, is report it. The offender will be dealt with. There is sentence potentially increased under the hate crime legislation here, and I say key message that is an issue we do not tolerate in Wales and in the UK.
Absolutely. Well, Gareth Cuerden there, we thank you for your time and good luck in your work. Thank you.